Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your host,
Nico.
and Irvin, and this is Shining Spotlight, the stream where we highlight creatives in the industry in order to inspire you guys. The legend and inspiration is amongst us. Starting back in the 80s, she was one of the pioneers for the foreigners in the anime industry. She served as an animator for several anime, for some including Lock the Superman, Bubblegum Crash, and even what you guys would probably know a lot more, which would be Ghost in the Shell for Production I.G. She has also produced and acted as a director in many other projects across the industry. Today, we welcome the amazing legend, Jan Scott-Frazier, to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very glad to be here. Very glad to hang out with you guys.
Glad to have you. I know. Personally, for me, one of the works you worked on that I was very much a fan of is your anime adaptation and translation of Scott-Frazier.
Okay.
I love the English version. I really loved it. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, heck yeah. Glad you liked it. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, it was actually one of the most impactful things about upbringing in the anime industry, to be honest. So again, thank you personally.
Well, I tried to do everything I could, work. I'm like, gotta get work and do this stuff, make money, live, pay rent.
Exactly. So go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Just for the audience, just to kind of kick things off a bit. I mean, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Well, my name's Jan Scott-Frazier. I went to work in the anime industry in 1987, in the ancient days when we, drew anime on papyrus and stuff. I was involved in a number of different. I went to animation school. I taught animation in a couple of different countries, actually a bunch of different countries. And I like China and Vietnam and Korea, South Korea, obviously. And I did animation work. I was an animator. I was a cell painter. I worked as a cell department chief for Artland for some time. I was a producer for a while. I was president of Production I.G USA. I just did a lot of different things. I mostly do now I do artwork for just myself, mostly in my game that I run, the games that I run, like maps and things like that. And then I do video work. I should say I do video work too. Like I do After Effects work for people, like music videos and things like that. Photography.
Everything,
right?
The whole spectrum at this point. Now, Production I.G was where, if I understand correctly, where you were working on stuff like Ghost in the Shell and Blood.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Ghost in the Shell, Blood the Last Vampire. Yeah, the Ghost in the Shell PlayStation game. The animation for that, not the programming or anything like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh goodness. Panzer Dragoon. The video we did, and a couple of things, little bits and pieces.
I know a lot of hardcore RPG fans that love like Panzer Dragoon.
Really nice.
Yeah.
I actually want to kind of turn back the pendulum a little bit. I know Bleach fans will probably get that reference if they know what I'm saying. But
I like it.
Turn back the pendulum, back to, I guess, when you first got into the anime or industry, or when you were first kind of coming out of school. I know at least from what I've read, and I don't know if this is just myth or legend, But if I'm not mistaken, you would when you were in like for example China, that was during like the Hong Kong protests and everything too, or
I was there during the Tiananmen protests, and that kind of went crazy all throughout the country, and we got shot at in Nanjing and stuff. It's kind of that.
Yeah, that's
Luckily they were far. Luckily they were far away from where we were, and so we, there were a little bit of danger. They got very, 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 very close to us, but other than that, it was, that was not something I was expecting as an animator. I was never expecting, adventure life, which is. It's fun to read about, fun to watch movies about, but not so great to live,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I can imagine. That's something where I'm like, I definitely wouldn't want that experience in that way.
I was flying from Tokyo to Bangkok one time on Northwest Airlines, and so we fly out. We're just we're climbing and stuff, and they just turned the seatbelt light off and the smoking light, and I'm reading this computer magazine. I'm sitting by the window. It's not even full. It's a very empty flight, and so I'm sitting by the window, and I notice something weird, and I look out, and it's like it looked like there were fireflies around the wing, around the engine. I'm like, what the hell is that? Then I realized they were sparks coming out of the engine. I was like, oh no! And then it went bang, and it exploded. The engine exploded, and I was like. And the fire extinguishers went off, so it was just like this long trail of white, and I'm just like, and you can't see anything because the extinguishers are going off. I'm like, and I wanted to ring the bell and tell them, I'm like, oh look, they know, they know, right? They know already. No, I don't have to tell them. And so they get, and then the plane shook. It shook like something hit it, and then. It immediately starts turning around, it's like, and then the captain in that Chuck Yeager voice is like, yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, we're reaching the Narita airport. We'll be back there in like 20 minutes. It's like 45 minutes out. Like, we'll be back there in 20 minutes. Please wait for, further information. And we get there. When we get there, the whole apron is full of red flashing lights. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, go down the slide. Go down the slide, but no, they had a little ladder truck thing that not a ladder, but a stair truck thing that they brought over. And I was like, yeah, that freaking engine exploded. I was like, oh, yeah, that was fun. 747, yeah, we had more.
Did you ever worry about like anything like, when you were working overseas, like anything like that ever happening again? Like, like whether,
Thailand was kind of crazy. Yeah, the democracy riots happened when I had my company there. And I remember there's one night that was very, very tense. And where I was in my studio and I was sitting on the first floor. And I had my company paperwork, the necessary documents for my company. And I had my go bag. And I had my MP5, and I could hear people yelling in the street outside, but I had these like shutters, these big metal shutters, and that we had locked with padlocks, and I just waited all night long, and I heard banging here and there, but nobody bothered the building I was in, and I was like, oh man, that was something,
Right. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So, kind of reeling back here, for the audience sake, tell us how you got into this industry.
I was excuse me, I was a huge fan. I was a giant otaku, like crazy otaku. I was, of course, this was the 80s, so I was huge into Urusei Yatsura and other things like Macross and Crusher Joe and Lock the Superman and Naushka and all these. So these were some of the first things I ever saw, and so I just got super so excited, and I had one friend who had tapes that he had collected, and I would borrow his tapes of, Mobile Suit Gundam, the TV series, and I was working at Radio Shack at the time, so I'd play them at Radio Shack because I didn't have a VCR at home, and so I was play them. And when my boss would go home, I'd be like, "It's Gundam time," and people would come in and they'd just stop and they'd look at it for a minute. They'd be like, "What language is that?" I'm like, "Japanese." And they're like, "You understand that?" I'm like, "Nope." "Isn't it cool though?" And they're like, So whatever. So, but no, I just got so interested in it. I love the artwork, the style of characters, and just the music and everything about anime just turned me on so much. And then I found there was a tour that went to Japan. I went on the tour. I went to some studios. I'm like, man, I had such culture shock. It was terrible. But I pushed through it because I just wanted to know more. And then I found the animation school, and it was an Animage magazine, and teach Japanese, which is necessary to the foreign student. It said in English, the only English it said. So I'm like, oh, it must be kind of good. So I contacted them, and they're like, well, you go through the Japanese school, and then you can go to the animation school. Mine was a bit more abbreviated than that, but than normal. But yeah, so that's I went from fandom to profession.
Really quick, before we move on to anything else, I'm like, we've had a lot of questions, or maybe not questions, but just a lot of comments come through. I just want to go ahead and address really quick, and then we'll jump right back.
Yeah.
All right. So we have, let's see here, from Austin.
Hi, Austin.
Dan.
One of my players. Yes. Austin.
Thank you for coming on, Austin.
Hey,
Jeffrey
Lilly.
Jan, it's great to see you.
It's good to see you too, man.
Hoping we can catch up at a con sometime and reminisce about the early days.
Come to Colorado. I'm here. So
another Jan from Anya St. James. I hope I'm saying that right.
That's my girlfriend.
And then from Antoine. What's up, Antoine? Give me the elbow.
Awesome.
Zeppelin or Zeppelin. I'm probably saying it completely wrong.
Yeah, that's also one of my players joking about saying Tiananmen.
I guess we are banned. Probably. I don't know.
Probably so now. I didn't think about that. Sorry guys.
Everybody, like any of the fans in China that are watching, they're just like, oh, why did
suddenly this this thing appears? No,
right. We'll have to work on the editing process.
Marcel Gray, wow, you are a walking, living, breathing history.
Well, thank you. That's a very nice comment. I appreciate it.
Oh, Radio Shack.
Oh yes. Oh my God, Radio Shack. It was a time. It was back in the times of dinosaurs and Radio Shack and the Trash 80 and we actually used to type our chapter newsletter on a Model 100, the portable Radio Shack computer. It's like almost like a notebook, but and then we type it on that, and I would print it out on a dot matrix printer, and we would cut that out with scissors and literally cut and paste it. We would cut and paste our newsletter. Yeah.
So before we jump back in, there is something I'm going to post in the comments, and you're going to hear me bring this up, and probably at least a couple times throughout this stream. But there is a fundraiser that I do want you guys to take notice to for Jan. We are trying to help Jan, or really, I can't even say it's me. It's really Jan's friend, Amanda Win Lee, who is trying to help Jan, and we're all trying to do an assistance to get Jan a kidney, and that's something very important.
The fundraiser is for kidney related things, like fixing my bathroom so I don't fall in it, like getting rails and stuff like that, and fixing my bed area so I don't fall in it and hurt myself like I did, and now I have to go through wound care. And so yeah, it's just all this related. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I apologize for getting that wrong.
No. It says to get a kidney, but unfortunately we can't. In America, we can't buy a kidney. It's illegal to buy a kidney.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, 5 years and $5,000 if you get busted. Actually, if you fly to like India or Bangladesh and go to what they call a kidneyville, which is where people just donate their kidneys for money, and you can get matched. It's horrifying. But if you fly back and they catch you, yeah, that's 5 years and $5,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For what that's worth. I mean, I wanted to make that clear too, because it's a bit of Amanda's title for it is a bit weird. I'm like, we can't really, buy a kidney,
That's one kind of a clarification there.
Yeah, so there we go.
But please, guys, please support anything.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It helps me out a lot. Helps me get my life together, because I got
definitely
nothing but a little bit of disability. So anyway, let's talk about anime stuff. That's more interesting than that.
Of course.
Right, let's get back into
we'll smooth back into it. Just a step at a time. You did some freelance work with Cambridge Animation Systems. What was it? Developers for Anemo?
Yeah, I was freelance for a while, and then I went to work for them as a Far East consultant, I was called, where I would basically work in Japan and China and stuff, and we would sell Animo, and then I would train people how to use it. I would go to different companies around the world. I actually went to Croyer Film, the people who made Fern Gully, and I trained them how to use Animo. And that was of course the U.S. I remember that was the Kurt Cobain died. I didn't know who he was because I had been in Japan and Asia, and grunge did not reach there. And so I remember Sue Croyer was so broken up, and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. Like, I feel so bad, because it's on all the news everywhere. We go out to eat at a bar, and it was like, Yeah. So anyway, that was that time. Yeah. So I trained people all over the world. I trained Ram Mohan, who was like the Walt Disney of India, and I trained people in Indonesia and China. And
you're it, man.
In India is really huge, especially in the nerd side of the community. To say, what Ram Mohan.
He's great. I really liked him. He really had, I don't know how to describe it, that it factor that you need to just make it happen where nobody else has ever made it happen. He was very charismatic, and he just really had it really focused and together. I really liked him a lot, and his studio was awesome. But yeah, it's cool. I know Toei worked with them too later, and so I set up studios all over the place and trained them how to use Animo, and
I just for clarification for the audience, the Animo the software or program, I would say, is basically an animation software.
You would scan in your drawings, and then you could color them in the system, and then basically do your, I hate to say flipbook animation, but that's kind of what it was, and check things and make sure and then you could composite that on your backgrounds or whatever, like you would do camera, and then output that to videotape, Betacam or 2 or whatever you're putting it out to, and that was revolutionary at that time. This is the time of, the video toaster. This is the time of the video toaster. We didn't use the video toaster, but I'm just saying, it was that time, and technology was, the 90s was very interesting for that. 2D, 3D, that was kind of becoming a thing. I worked in that a bit with the people who made Lightwave 3D, which is
and that was used in all kind of animated feature
Babylon
films
5
and short series.
Sequest DSV, and so many things. So many.
Well, wait, you had like Warner Brothers and DreamWorks involved in it as well.
Yeah, they bought Animo too. They used it on oh my god, Prince of Egypt, Space Jam. Yeah, Space Jam. Yeah, that was interesting because I didn't work on Space Jam, but I was working in Japan doing my thing, and the Cambridge had this big party in the summer. We came back for for SIGGRAPH, the big graphic show, which was in LA, and so we went to the Warner Brothers lot where they had this like Western thing, and they gave us squirt guns, and we got to meet like a bunch of the people who were in the movie. And it was really neat. Yeah, that was kind of that was my relationship to most of the stuff in America was just that it was being made in the US, and I was just working there. I was working on like Quo Vadis 2 for a game, and just all sorts of different things at the time. And I was helping to make Animo better, because there's other things. There's a vector part of Animo that was really, really cool that I really like to work with. That was the original Animo, but and they made it the ink and paint and put it in a lot of different studios.
Yeah, a lot of them. Guys, let me tell you, you back on check that one. Have fun.
So in the when you first kind of like were getting involved with the anime industry back in, like, I'm gonna say, in the earlier days when you first kind of jumped in, what, like, was it actually challenging to kind of get into it? Because I hear different things, some people kind of lucked out, or not lucked out, I shouldn't say that, but maybe they might have just had an opportunity that came and they were able to seize it.
That was really my situation. I went at the right time. I went in just the beginning of the heat of the OVA boom. And when money was flowing, and there was, and people were trying different things, and so I lucked out in that I was introduced to people who helped me, get into studios. Like I worked for a ink and paint studio, and actually when all that Tiananmen crap went down, stuff went down, the president of that studio introduced me to Ishiguro-san, the president of Artland, and that's when my career really started, because I went into the production department. I was the first foreigner ever to be in a production department, so that was crazy. Oh man,
Really?
oh man, I went to like Maki Pro one time. Maki Pro would do the titles, the end titles. We had to have this special photographic process. We would get it made, and then we would take it to them, and they would do all the magic on it. And so one time I went there, and it was on the third floor of this building. The first floor is like a camera store, second floor is like English, Eikaiwa, and the third floor is at Maki Pro. So I go up to Maki Pro, and I'm like, boom, mochi mochi atorant desu. And they come out and they look at me like, what? I'm like, it's Artland. I'm like, hi, I'm from Artland. And they're like, okay. I'm like, here's the titles from whatever show it was. And then they're like, and I hand it to them, and I leave, and they called Artland. They're like, was that a joke?
Oh, they thought you were playing. They didn't believe it. They were thinking like, okay, there's no way that someone who's not
a foreigner would be interested. And people would ask me, they'd stop me. Like I go to, this one background studio, Otorie Buka, and I went there, and they're like, you're from Artland? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why don't you sit down? We're going to have some tea, and we're going to discuss this. I'm like, okay. And I didn't realize they were super good friends with the president of Artland. They're very close. But they're like, okay, well, let's talk about this. Who are you? Why are you here? Like, anime? Really? Why?
There's no way.
Yeah, and every time I went there, they'd be like, oh, sit down, we got to talk. And we chat about something. They'd bring out ice cream. Like, we got ice cream. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll eat ice cream. I'm working, but I'll sit down and eat ice cream with you.
Really quick for anybody who's coming in. I noticed we just had a few more people come in. If you're new to the channel, just go ahead, if you can, throw us a like on this video. It really helps the channel out quite a bit. and share this video around. We have a lot we're going to talk about throughout this interview, so I want to make sure that we can spread this far and wide. But let's get right back to it.
All right. So there's so many different areas you've been in. I'm debating which one to really touch on here.
I met Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was dressed as the Terminator at the time. He was shooting T2 3D. We were at Digital Domain, doing a tour of I was with Production I.G, and 4 of us went to Digital Domain, and they, James Cameron took us around on a tour, and he's like, we went into this one room and he had this big boat. We're like, what is this? He goes, well, I'm shooting this movie about the Titanic. And we're like, all right. He's like, it's a love story. We're like, okay. Well, we were right about that part. Anyway, we went to the soundstage where he was shooting T2 3D. He was the director, and Arnold was there as the Terminator, and Eddie Furlong was, in his costume as John Connor. And so he kind of took off, but Arnold came out because he knew the guy who was helping translate for us. He came out and he was like, God, it's the Terminator. We can shake his hand. And I was like, and he came up, and that translator guy didn't like me, so he didn't introduce me. So Arnold looked at me and he started to turn away, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh man, this is my chance. I gotta say something. I have to say something. You know what I'm saying, right? I was like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm here. Hi, sir. I'm here with a Japanese group. I am, I'm a director in Japanese animation, and I just wanted you to know how amazing, we think that your films are, and how inspirational you are, and just thank you. I stuck out my hand, and he looked at me, and he took my hand. I said, hi, I'm Japanese.
Oh my!
What?
Those moments in the mind where you're just like, I don't know if
no, brain, you did it wrong. Yeah, I'm just like, never mind. He looked at me like, what?
Oh my goodness. I think those are one of those moments where you just almost like, you just want to block it out of your mind almost. Like sometimes just like, no, I don't even want to think about it anymore. I just want to.
No, somewhere out there, he's probably like, there's that Japanese person. What I meant that said they were, so I'm like, oh man. And the stupidest people I've ever met or something. I'm like, no,
We just don't talk about it.
Yeah. So
kind of piggybacking off of that, I'm gonna start with the production end of it. For those that they're pretty much aspiring to be producers, say in the anime industry, tell us a little bit more. What was it like behind the scenes? What was it like working with a team and running a team?
Well, the thing about being a producer is that you do have to run a team. You have to learn how people work. Like, let's say you have, famous animator X who's doing your, X amount of work and stuff, but he's behind. But then so you have to call him, right? And you have to make that call the right way with the right language, so that you don't want to offend him, and you don't want to be too pushy, but you want to make sure you get it done. And that's what being a producer is a lot about that. And that's really in any whether you're producing. I produced music for a while too, and it's really the same thing. It's just, you have to you figure out how this person works, and you gently massage them within that to get what you need, because you're making a product. If you're a producer, you're making a product. And, if you're working with your friends and stuff, that's really hard because you have to push them, and people don't like being pushed, but that's part of the job as a producer. If you got a good producer, then your director doesn't have to do it.
I imagine people probably, when you give them that push, they're kind of like, especially with creatives, like there's probably always like that pushback. Like, are you trying to lean on me? Are you trying to,
Yeah. There's always some. I mean, whenever you push somebody, there's going to be some resistance. And so you just have to learn how to push people the right way.
So I was going to say, like, how do you balance that when it comes to the creative side, because obviously you're a creative yourself, but then also
Mhm.
the business side as a producer? Like, how do you keep that balance?
Well, in the end, let's say we three are making an animated product, and that means if I'm the producer, I'm paying you two to make this. So it's your job. And so when we agreed at the beginning to make this schedule and agreed to this payment and all this kind of stuff, that was a business choice. So I got to push the business side of it, no matter what our personal relationship is. And we may be close, in the animation industry, that happens a lot, because it's so small. But we need to make this happen because we all decided that this is business. So
Heavy like
I
a
think that
Chevy.
that's one of those things where I think today, or I guess I should ask this: like, do you think that today, with a lot of creatives, like for example, you have a big flux of original English language manga creators, out
mhm,
there.
mhm,
People who, in some cases they're creating manga, in some cases, they're posting on webtoons. And I don't want to
mhm.
say everyone's making manga, but they're making a lot of comic.
Yeah, all sorts of cool media. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about the current, I guess, original English language manga community as it stands today? Have you like seen any of the work out there,
I
or
think it's awesome. I think it's really, really cool. I love creative work. I love creativity. And I love seeing people being spontaneously creative. And this is a medium, excuse me, that allows people a great deal of flexibility, I think, and they really are able to pour their creativity. They've also seen what other people have done and like, "Ooh, I wanna make something cool too," you know? I just that's happening. That's really, really a happening thing right now, and it's I think it's exciting, honestly.
so with a big flux like this, do you think that a lot of the people in the industry, and I don't want to ask you like a leading question, but I'm just, I guess there's something in particular I want to know about. Like, do you feel like there might be a lot of professionals that are coming into the industry that, or not professionals, but more so people who don't understand the difference between being professional and hobbyist? Or do you think that that has been kind of,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the we used to joke that the rule number one of the anime industry is don't hire an otaku because they won't understand. When they want to draw they want to draw the pretty girls, but then when they have to draw tires and a truck driving away, and they have to draw you know scenes of school lockers and things, they get bored really fast. Yeah, they get bored really fast with that, and they don't wanna put up with the schedule. They don't wanna put up with not being able to draw exactly what they want, and so, yeah, that was always a problem, I mean, like I said, it was a joke, but
oh, so you think
that
this has been
rule.
something this has been an issue that's kind of persisted throughout the industry for years, or is this something recent? I guess
No,
I'm
this is forever. Yeah, this is something
forever.
forever.
Okay, this
Yeah,
is
this is
interesting.
something absolutely forever. Um I it's just like I said that we used to say that back in 1989, so yeah, it's just and it's not a slight on fandom. That's not the intention. It's just that there's a difference between it's like, why are you there? If you're not there because you like animation, because you love animation and you want to make it, and you're not gonna last very long. I mean, it would be the same thing with if you're making manga and you don't love making manga and you're making manga because manga burns in you, then that's success there. Well, that's the path to success. Because that's where when your passion is in it, that makes all the difference. And I don't know, I think that there's you can have passion in any medium, and it can be really cool in any medium when you look at it when people really like flex that medium and try it out. So yeah, I think that's what's happening with the wheel manga.
Okay, now before we move on to our other questions, really quick, we're at the halfway point of this interview, so I want to make sure that I make a quick announcement about the Honeycomb Hideout.
Oh,
For any of you guys out there who enjoy podcasting, if you enjoy listening to anything dealing with nerd culture, talking about controversial topics, and you are 18 up and plus, or I should say 18 up plus, not 18 up and plus, but you guys get what I mean. You will want to check out the Honeycomb Hideout. Definitely one of the best podcasts to listen to on your next car ride. And they are the sister group to us as well. So go ahead and show them some love. They're on Spotify. They are on, I believe, Apple Podcasts. Those are the two places you definitely will want to listen to them and find them. And with that being said, I will also say you want to make sure that you also support, and there's a link in the comment section, but I'll put it there again. We have a fundraiser, or I should say there is a fundraiser for Jan out there that we talked about earlier on the stream in order to assist in the some of the challenges that Jan has had, with health issues, dealing with her kidney. So make sure that you guys go ahead and check that link out. Make sure that you support that and support Jan, through Jan's journey with this. Just please, I would appreciate that. We would all appreciate that. Anything you donate, or even if you can't donate anything, if you share the link around, that's greatly appreciated. But if you can donate something, please do that.
thank you.
And then with that being said, also, just to help out the video, throw us a like. It's always appreciated. But I'm going to shut up now. We're going to get right back into this.
All right. So, all right, back at it. So thank you for that bit on the production end of things.
Mm-hmm.
How about as the translator and adapter for a lot of the English version series out there, such as
really mostly manga, honestly, more than video. Yeah.
Please tell us more about like what that process looked like, because I know there's a lot of folks that do like a lot of, it seems like a lot of fandom translations, really, but they, a lot of them really do dive into trying to figure out how to do more translation work more professionally when I don't really know where to take it.
I would get work from a company, let's say Tokyo Pop, for instance. Tokyo Pop would send me manga, I don't know, what was it, Scribe. And we would talk. They're like, do you want to do this series? It's a 5-episode series, and we would like to pay you X amount. And it's sometimes it's per page, sometimes it's per book, sometimes it's per it's just kind of depends on the company you're working with as to how that's being paid. And it's usually per page with manga. So as a translator, when you have a page full of really complex stuff, scientific this and that, it's like, oh no, I have to look stuff up a lot, and you're looking stuff up. And then 5 pages later, there's this 2-page spread that's boom! You're like, yes! I like the explosion ones. That's my favorite. Anyway, but no, it's I would get work from them, and then they would send me the books, and then I would go through and try to figure out what the authors intended, where they're going with this, and what the voices of the characters are. Every character needs to have a separate voice. They need to speak in their own words and terminology and such. So I would try to keep all that in mind, and sometimes it was hard. Sometimes the authors didn't know where they wanted to go at the beginning of something, and they'd be lost, and then suddenly they'd click and be like, oh, we're gonna do this. It's like, okay, and then it would be much easier, and it's easiest if you can hold the characters' voices in your mind while you're doing the translation.
Really?
Yeah. Like, let's say you have a character A, and character A is a tough guy, and he talks like this. His sentences are gonna be shorter, and he's not as as Lowry as character B, who is very erudite and likes to speak with a lot of words, versus character C, who's very cute. How you guys doing? What's up? And who speaks in slang. Um, so honestly, it's the same for it's the same when you do subtitles and stuff. I've done some subtitles with things. And it when the character speaks, you want them to have their own voice. This character A is going to speak different than character B, and you want to reflect that in the word choice and the timing and what you have available. So,
Expand on that bit a bit more. How you're reflecting their character through the text, because that I don't really think I hear that more so out there with folks expanding on like the fonts or how subtitles really work, as it involves the entire project. It's one of those things kind of like underlooked, I'll say.
Yeah, I don't see that a lot.
I don't like people changing subtitle colors or subtitle fonts for other characters. I think that's not how our brains process subtitles, really. Not how we all have been kind of trained to process subtitles in a way, and that's not it. And so I get what they're doing. But that's not how I would handle it. It's called voicing the character. And whether it's manga or subtitles or whatever, you need to voice those characters. It's like that's one of the big differences between a pro translation and a amateur translation, is that the characters will be voiced. When you look at an amateur translation, everyone speaks the same way, so it's like, it's flat. But when you look at a pro translation, everyone has their own voice. Everyone speaks slightly differently, and you can feel it. Like I said, word choice, length of dialogue, you have to say what do I have to use? Like subtitles, I have this much use. With manga, I have word bubbles that I can fit in.
I guess that's what they call like localization, right? When you're,
this is all part of localization. Localization is bringing it to a different language. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is the good part, the sweet part of localization. This is what makes it good, honestly.
Were there any in your professional history here, especially with what you told us thus far with relations and how things can get a bit sensitive, were there a lot of conflicts or, let's say, negative circumstances that occurred in your career?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There were conflicts because of language, because my language was only so good. My Japanese language was only so good. There were conflicts because I was a foreigner. Because just there were times when I was told, well, you don't understand our culture enough to work on a show like that. I'm like Ninja Scroll or something like that. I'm like, all right. Yeah, because Ninja Scroll is so realistic to the Japanese culture, right? Right? Seriously, come on, man. I know, right? It's like, yeah. So I had another director tell me that one time, and I was like, yeah, all right, you just keep talking, and I had, I don't know, just cultural conflicts, differences in the way we thought about things, the way we did things, yeah, that kind of thing, and then conflicts just because we were different people, because, you have conflicts with your coworkers sometimes. And in a situation like that, we can have a lot of conflict because people are very vivid in the anime industry. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because from a lot of folks that I hear that they ended up, there were foreigners over there that ended up getting work over there. It wasn't all peach and rainbows, trying to just get in.
No, maybe once they got in, definitely is not peaches and rainbows trying in any part. Anime's tough. It's a physically and mentally and emotionally tough industry, because it's like a sweatshop, but it's a loving sweatshop. I know that's absolutely horrible to say that, but it's because you want to do it, you want to be part of it, you want to make it, you want to just, but and we're all trying to make through, and it's not like anybody's cheating anybody in the chain, but it's just that the budgets are so low.
You actually brought up a great point. So, obviously, in the animation industry in Japan, and I hope I don't offend anybody out here, but, it's widely known that, it isn't usually well paid, amongst a lot of animators, so do you think that there really will ever be like a shift where, people are paid more fairly, than what they are, do you think
they will have to unionize. They will have to get down, and I mean there was an animators union, but it wasn't very strong. They're gonna have to make a serious, hardcore, angry, finger pointing.
But how common is that in Japan, like where you have unions?
Very, very.
You have Karoshi.
There are unions, but they're not like this kind of union. They need to have a very serious, labor union movement to make this happen. And I don't know that. They're capable of doing it, but I just, that's really what's going to make it.
Ever an issue, like when you were working, like where like you saw?
Oh yeah. There was actually I don't know what you want to call it, an urban legend, or
really
where it was.
Before you say that, I just want to make sure I explain to the viewers, like just for those of you guys who don't know what karoshi is, it's supposed to basically be like overwork or excessive work, beyond like
work to death.
Yeah, basically
work to death. Yeah. It literally is work to the term is work to death. The she in it is death. And there was a apocryphal story about a production worker did he work for Toei? Did he work for Mushi Pro? Wherever. Where they were, they finally got this show to camera, and they picked up the last things from camera to bring back, which at that point it's just nothing, you don't need it anymore. And he got in the parking lot and died, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I felt like it sometimes. Oh man, I felt like I was gonna die sometime. But it's a work of passion.
That's truly working for the love at that point.
It's like, it is,
like you're not getting.
It's like being a part of a cult.
Yeah, well, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
It is. It's kind of like being a cult, really.
So who is really, I guess it brings the question, especially, now these days we're always talking about capitalism and everything like that, not to even make it like political, but like when we look at who is actually getting paid when it comes to these shows, if the animators themselves aren't getting paid,
not a lot.
Nope.
Nobody's getting paid a lot, and it's split down. I mean, the animation companies were generally very fair about how that money. It wasn't like the president was like, "Woo," or anything like that. No, man, that did not happen. Like the president was sleeping on his sofa in his office, and man, it was just the budgets were really low, and that's just like oh man, I remember we were talking to this Warner Brothers about making animation, and their budgets were just so unbelievably larger than ours, and not that they made it, but in American animation, just we made an episode of Genocyber for $25,000, $27,000 actually. Right, that's not very much money, and at the time, The Simpsons were shooting episodes for $1.2 million, and most of it was voice acting. It was a different world. It was absolutely just a different world. Ghost in the Shell was made for $5.5 million. Yeah, right?
No, I mean,
it's a different world. But man, when we went to Digital Domain, they invited us. We went to Digital Domain. We're sitting in the waiting room. We're like, okay, don't tell them how poor we are, because this is beautiful studio, just this amazing, like all this. We're like, oh my god, don't tell them don't let them know. You
I don't know why I just
know.
picture somebody like sweeping the floor, just kind of,
Right.
like you'd see like in like a cartoon or something. Like, can I have some more? You know?
Yeah, it is. There's been anime made about the animation industry in Japan, so it's pretty good, you know.
One of our run through the comments.
Oh yes, so let's run through these.
Yeah, hit
we
me
haven't
up.
addressed the comments in a while. Sorry guys, we've just been talking.
It's okay.
But let's see here. All right, we have actually I started too far down.
Oh no.
I see Anya St. James. Thank you for this fundraiser share. Love you, Jan. You are amazing and have done so much for the anime community industry. It would not be the same without you, and I agree.
Thank you, my wonderful girlfriend.
And then Marcel Gray.
Yeah.
Fern Gully is a beautiful movie about a fairy tale world. Love that movie.
Yeah.
All right. Che Baker. This story is hilarious. I think that was in reference to earlier. And then good questions around healthy push and resistance. I believe that was in reference to
producing. Yeah, being a producer. Mm-hmm. The other thing about being a producer is the gold chain appears on your chest when you become a full producer.
The gold chain. Do you get powers too? Okay. Jay Baker makes sense about artists being more focused on the fun fan art, if not actually building the story or process. Creative process is more than just cool art.
Yeah, you're a part of something, you know.
Marcel Gray, reflection and tone makes the characters concrete. You know, I love how you explain that. Ninja Scroll, my first anime.
Really? Oh, fantastic! That's an awesome way to start. Oh man. I remember when that
heck of a way to start.
Oh, yeah.
When you're saying someone needs to flip the table and start a rebellion for a better union.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it's gonna take, really.
But it's like, who's gonna do it? Like, that's the real question. I feel like it would have to be someone who has a little bit more power to do that.
You know, I'll tell you what, they're making the same. The people who had my job, you know, like being a production supervisor, right? The people who had my job are making the same thing now that I was then in the 90s. Right? That's ridiculous. In the most expensive, well, I don't know if it's the most expensive economy in the world anymore, but it probably is.
They have to be working multiple jobs at that point. There's no way.
I don't know. I really don't know. Because we were scratching by, and I can't imagine what that's like right now. I can't imagine like being a painter, you know, making 70,000 yen a month. You know, I there must be more than that now, but you know, even then, you're not making very much money.
Okay, well we're coming down to the last part.
All right.
Of this interview.
I'm ready.
We're gonna be
I already know what's coming.
Some spicy, interesting, good questions. Our traditional questions, as you will. I'm trying to see. You want to kick that first one off, Nico? The first one of the bunch?
Oh yeah. You know, and you already know, ladies, gentlemen, guys and gals, these and zeros, those unique pronouns that there. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you like to see more of the content. And obviously, we expand with more things to come with the spotlight. So, first off, let's. What would you consider yourself to have? Let's say anybody you competed with in the industry. Do you have a rival of sorts?
Not anymore. I did in the past.
You did away with them. That's really what it is. He's just like,
well, so there was a time when I helped people open studios. I would fly to China and help. They would have a staff that they would want to train, and I would train them. I would do like a week or 2 weeks training, or Thailand, or wherever. And I was one of 2 people who did this. There was a Japanese guy who did this too, but he worked in. Whereas I worked throughout everywhere in Asia, including India and Pakistan and stuff. And he worked in South America and did a bunch of other stuff where I did not work. And we met one time. We met in China. We met in a restaurant in Beijing. and it's like dun dun dun, you know, because we were the only two people who did this, and it's like it's not like, I mean, there was enough work for the two of us. It was just mountains of work for us. We have tons of work, but at the same time, we were still like, we were doing the same thing. It was like, I used to think, I'm like, I am Indiana Jones and he's Belloc. You know, was the way I looked at it. And we met at a restaurant that served all this weird food. We actually ate camel and stuff, and it was almost a challenge at one point to eat the weirdest thing. We ate fried scorpions, which tastes like burnt fatty bacon. You know, I know. I was like, hey, I'm gonna just eat these. They're like, oh, you're eating the scorpions. I'm like, yeah, they're all right. I don't mind them. You know. So
tastes like
yeah, he was my rival, and then I had there was a while who was like
that because
there was a. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I did have a rival for a while.
No, I was just gonna say I'm glad that you said that because like a lot of times, and this is nothing against any of our previous guests, but everybody's like, oh no, like it's either one or the other. Like they'll just say no rival, and I'm like, okay, everyone doesn't have one, and then we'll have some guests come on and they'll say, oh yeah, and they'll just like say it's a hot or cold.
We gotta throw down with them,
Yeah, like it got real.
Yeah, I'm like, but let's see here. Okay, so I have an interesting question that I want to ask. A little bit different than our traditional one, but we'll get to the traditional one in a second. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest loss you suffered and bounced back from as a creative?
Well, I guess losing my studio in Bangkok, losing my studio in Thailand. God, that crushed me. I had my own studio. I was running things and stuff. And I couldn't get enough work going into it. And then the anime industry started to like, and I ended up having to move back to Japan, and I lost everything there. My paint, my desks, my staff, my personal office, just gone with the wind. And man, that hurt. Yeah, that took a long time. It took a long time for me to recover from that. And a lot of people owed me money too. Like a certain unnamed company owed me $85,000, and they wouldn't pay and wouldn't pay and wouldn't pay and wouldn't pay, and they ended up never paying me. And so, man, stuff like that hurt. And so that took my company out at the knees at a bad time. And so I hated that happening. That was tough.
Well, they never stopped owing you, so they still owe you.
That's right. Yeah, they do. I almost said their name. I'm not going to say their name, but yeah, I almost said, "Yo, you owe me. This is the challenge."
We have a really quick question. Looks like from Marcel. What's on your bookshelf?
Oh, what's on my bookshelf? Well, let's see. I have books by Krishnamurti, by Jiddu Krishnamurti, who I just really find absolutely fascinating. And I have books by Hermann Hesse, who, especially Siddhartha, is my favorite of his. And let's see, I have some art book. I have a bunch of art books of various types. Michael Whelan. I'm a big fan of Michael Whelan. And let's see, some manga books here and there scattered. I have some books on mindfulness, on both understanding mindfulness and teaching it. I used to teach yoga and meditation for a while, so I have that kind of stuff. And then I have books on. I went to school to be a counselor, so I have books on that too. Cognitive behavior therapy.
What has Jan not done? I mean, Jan,
I know a little bit of everything.
You've done the what was it? Like, I think you, at least this is what I read, that you even have like designed tattoos before. Am I wrong?
I have, yeah. I just here. Let me put this up here. I have designed mine. Let me get that turn.
Yes.
That's an Om in the middle there. And I used to design tattoos for people. I used to do henna work, and I did a lot of henna work for people who were trying to decide where to put a tattoo, how big to make it. And just, sometimes people could, you know, do the henna, and people would go and just wait until the henna would, be good, and then they just tattoo right over it. One of my very good friends here has a tattoo of a kanji I did right on her,
Oh wow.
on her clavicle.
Okay. So we're at the final hour. So, or
That's
not
right.
hour, but final.
I was like,
part.
oh my goodness.
But the final part,
Mhm.
this is for everyone,
Yeah.
the viewers, or how Nico says, guys and gals. Nico, roll into the final question because you're going to say it better than I do today.
So, this is our traditional question here. What is your ultimatum? Where is all this going? What is your end game?
Well,
With Thanos, what is your end game?
so my
style.
end game is small, I will tell you. I do like RPGs, like Dungeons and Dragons type RPGs, online as well as in person. We have a monthly D&D. The last Saturday of every month is D&D day, and where we get together and do our thing. And then I have a game called Adventure every Sunday night, that I run. It's like Mission Impossible and Indiana Jones, and we're actually in the middle of the ultimate boss fight right now. Yeah, so fighting Ivan Dragunov, and my girlfriend's character is coming up with Excalibur to cut him into pieces, and yeah, it's crazy time. So I put a lot of work into that, and then there's other games that I kind of want to run, and like I want to do a Star Trek game, and that one I might stream. I just have to be careful of copyrighted material, because I play a lot of music and stuff in my games. I just have to be, music is very, for verboten, as you guys know. So I just have to be careful of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm putting a lot of work into that because I hate to say it, but I'm a very sick person. I lost my kidneys and my heart's not great, and I'm just kind of so yeah, I don't know. I try to do what I can. I try to be as creative as I can do photography or whatever I can that's just interesting. Tell stories. I love telling stories. My favorite thing in the world.
Well, I can definitely say at least, like I'm praying for you. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks. And I want to make sure I say again before we wrap up, because of course I'm gonna give you the floor to talk about any projects or anything that you have going on. But I want to make sure I say to everyone, make sure you check out that link we posted earlier in the chat for Jan, since we're on the topic of it, to support Jan, through her health journey, with some of her health struggles, so please support that. Like I said earlier, even if you're looking at this or listening to this on Spotify, we'll try to put a link in the description when we upload this. So if you're looking to the recording, support in any way you can. If you share the link, if
Thank you. I appreciate
$1, anything,
yeah, I appreciate this very much. It's very helpful to me. Very, very, very helpful to me.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, we appreciate
I don't have cool jobs at the moment. I'm trying to get back to a health space where I can, do some more graphics work, whether it's motion graphics or titles, or I'm very good at titles. Yes, I've gotten very good at titles and making logos and all sorts of that kind of stuff. So
okay, well,
Mrs. Scott-Frazier.
Not Mrs., just Miss.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank
you, all commenters, and thank you to everyone who pushed the like button.
So I want to say really quick. So is there a link where people should check out, or a page that we should go to, to check out?
I wish, but my website is down currently. Ooh, no.
Well, if you are listening to this interview in the future, a few years from now, perhaps the website might be back up.
Or if anyone wants to help me get a DeviantArt thing up, and I'll send you some graphics and you'll put them up and stuff, because I'm kind of terrible at the moment. Peripheral neuropathy is eating my hands, so it's hard to type and stuff. So yeah, if you all want to help me, please do.
Opportunity.
Right?
Really quick, I want to say, for those of you guys who, have stuck through this so far, we do have a couple upcoming things coming up. And we have 2 more episodes left in this season. 2 more episodes before this year ends out. And then it will be the end of season 4 of Shining Spotlight. I think this has been a pretty good season, but you guys can let us know that. All the guests have been wonderful. Jan, I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while. So, of course, this is wonderful.
Thanks for having me. This is really cool.
I want to make
cool
sure that I want to make sure I also say that we do have a project coming up soon called Killbox. That's one of our OEO projects. We have actually several more, but this is one of the first ones coming up. So if you are someone who enjoys hip hop, battle rap, that sort of thing, this is going to be your comic, because this is a battle rap comic. So it's
that's
something
awesome.
that's never been done before.
That's super awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that you guys can see updates on the channel as time progresses. Also, one last time, I will say, make sure that you guys check out the Honeycomb Hideout. There will be a link down in the description for that as well. In fact, I actually believe there's a link in the description for that right now. So you make sure you check that out if you like nerd podcasts. It's 18 and up podcast. So you want to make sure you keep that in mind. You don't play this around kids. And then also, I again want to thank Jan again for coming on the show today.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been really cool.
Oh, yeah. And real quick, do you have a social media post that folks?
I have Facebook. Yeah, I have Facebook. Jan Scott-Frazier.
Instagram.
Yeah, I have Instagram too. I don't really put much on Instagram. I put my photography on Instagram, so it's been a little quiet recently. But yeah, you're welcome to go hunt me down there.
Cool.
Jan Scott-Frazier.
Oh, there you have it.
Awesome, thanks.
All right, so we have a link down in the comments for that as well, so you guys will be able to see that. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, we will make sure we put a link in the description, so whenever you pause or you pull your car over or whatever, you guys can go ahead and pull that up, and make sure you follow Jan.
Thank you.
With that being said, thank you guys for watching today. We will see you on these last 2 final episodes of Shining Spotlight for the season, not forever, just for the season. And we will see you guys later.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Catch y'all later.